Hey guys, you're watching Let's Talk About Prepping. I'm Tyler, your host, and in this video, we're going to watch me continue this truck model that I started in a past video, linked below. And I'm going to talk a little about myself, which I don't normally feel comfortable doing, but which I've been thinking about as I pass the 100th video mark and as I've gotten to know my audience a bit better. I felt like maybe I should let you know a bit about myself, why I do what I do, and where I'm coming from, and where I want to go with it. Now, if that's not interesting, turn on some good music and enjoy the video. If it is, you can listen as a podcast or enjoy the whole thing, whatever works for you. Anyways, I hope I've made it clear in past videos that I'm not an expert on anything that we talk about here. I'm not a veteran or an emergency response team member or anything like that. The only credentials that I can really offer you is that I've been interested in this kind of stuff for pretty much my entire life, and it's pretty much framed my worldview most of that time. Now, that doesn't make anybody an authority on any given subject, but I hope that it does give you a little bit of an insight into the way that I think and the way that I see the world. I've never really seen it as something that would continue on the way that it always has. Now, I grew up in the Mormon church, and the Mormons generally believe that we are in or near the end times, and that within a few generations, if not this generation, the end times, tribulations, and trials that come before the second coming will begin. The Mormons are not rapture believers. They believe that we will see the fire and the death that precurses the Antichrist and the second coming. Now, in none of my experience is the Mormon Church a fire and brimstone or doomy church, but it is something that many accept as a part of the reason that they must stay righteous and prepare. This drives a lot of their preparedness activities. Many Mormons have 6 months to a year's worth of food as a simple process of the things that they do. Many Mormons go to the Mormon canneries to provide public service through food banks, and in doing so become familiar with the idea of storing those same foods for food storage. Now, many of them, and this includes my family, have 72-hour kits and always have. For all of my life, having a 72-hour kit for each member of the family was just a casual thing that almost everyone I knew did, and rotated them once or twice a year as a family home evening activity. Now, not only did growing up in the Mormon church afford me the mindset of preparedness, it also gave me the opportunity to be involved in the Boy Scouts from a very young age. From the age of 6, not only was I involved in the Cub Scouts, but I was able to go out with the 18-year-old boys on their hiking and snow caving expeditions because the boys and my father helped me along to be able to experience these much older activities. This spurred my interest in wilderness and survival from a very young age. Books like Hatchet and its sequels were things that I consumed voraciously, rereading them over and over again, and eventually moving on to military and various other types of survival and evasion manuals. And my Boy Scout leaders basically had to dissuade me from wanting to go on pockets only survival campouts, which is probably a good thing because I definitely wouldn't have enjoyed that as much as I thought I would. Anyways, I always liked to read as a young child, whether it was The Lord of the Rings or apocalyptic fiction or even the Bible. I sponged up literature like it was candy. I really enjoyed playing outdoors, playing with computers, and that's something that always stuck with me. When I was in high school, I was part of the robotics team, which taught kids manufacturing, programming, and a variety of other skills, including marketing. I remained in the Boy Scouts for almost my entire career, although by the time I was 17, the various waiting periods and basically bureaucratic red tape kept me from achieving my Eagle Scout by the time I turned 18. But I don't consider that a failure. I basically got as close as you can get without actually achieving it. And I'm not going to pawn it all off on red tape because a little bit of that was procrastination on my part. But when it comes to achieving merit badges, I pretty much got there. Now, whether through Boy Scouts or family, I have had access and training in firearms for basically my entire life and experience in both urban and rural settings. When I was in middle school, I was involved both in the martial arts and in wrestling, and as soon as I could in high school, I got my first job. When I started working, and ever since then, I have worked in the food industry. Whatever else I've done, my first or second job has always been something to do with food. I enjoy cooking, and I enjoy the restaurant industry. If you are somewhat impervious to a lot of the things that people complain about, whether it's the coworkers, the environment, or the customers, it is a very enjoyable and fast-paced, engaging place to work. Now, I graduated high school just before the 2008 recession, which greatly affected my family and forced us to move to another state to be near family and in a lower cost of living area. I quickly chose to move back to be with the person that I was with at the time, and this greatly affected my career and schooling. And so for a while, I worked only in the food industry, although I built a very good resume, which allows me to be able to find work in pretty much any place very quickly. Now, eventually, because things didn't work out for me there, and also because Portland is crazy, I decided to move away from there and back with family in Idaho. And so for a while, I lived a very rural life. I got a job in a machining factory making firearms like AR-15s and various other weapons. And during this time, I learned a lot about CNC machining, ballistics, reloading, and various other things that you might expect someone to learn during that period of time. And during that period of time, I became very interested in conspiracy theories and prepping itself. Now, when I say that I became interested in conspiracy theories, I mean that I became fascinated with the world of conspiracy theories and what people think about various conspiracy theories. I went down the rabbit hole on a few, but mostly I was just fascinated in soaking up the information that was out there in this vast world that people have built on various events in the past. I've always been interested in history, and the alternate history aspect of conspiracy theories has always been interesting to me. Now, for long periods of time, I listened to podcasts of various types, whether that was Alex Jones or Coast to Coast or various other political and conspiracy documentaries, as well as prepping information. Lots and lots of prepping information and blogs and podcasts, as well as getting into the YouTube community and starting to really learn what there was about prepping. This is the period of time where I've really downloaded a lot of information into my brain that we talk about today. And while a lot of that was driven by my conspiracy interest, that is something that I've really parted from in recent years. For a while, it actually burnt me out. And now that I've come back to really getting into preparedness and survival again, I've really distilled a lot of that out of my perspective and really been uh, focused more on the cyclical collapses of societies and economies that you can really point to and know eventually happen. Now, ever since I worked in the machine shop, I've done a variety of different things. I've worked in construction as well as construction supply, both advising contractors and running a forklift and various other types of heavy equipment. I've worked in a lot of tree care, both in moving fully grown trees using large spade trucks and in planting the seeds of trees and tending them as saplings in a nursery setting and performing harvest and sorting duties, as well as large irrigation operations and the care of trees after they've been transplanted. I've done land clearing and home development, and built my own mini home as the starting seed for an off grid homestead, which I started land breaking for before various people problems broke in. Now, in the past couple years, I've been living a little closer to the city, which in this case is still less than 50,000 people, and just working, keeping my head down, and starting this YouTube channel while I prepare to go back to school to gain some credentials and a little bit more knowledge. I'm going to do this in a way that is beneficial both to me in the real world now, if it continues the way it is, and to me as a prepper and as a YouTuber. When it comes to this YouTube channel, I started it for a few reasons. As a unifying and motivating factor in my life, I needed something to be behind all the things that I did. And because survivalism and prepping has been in the background of all of my life, it seemed like a good option for me to move forward with as a venue for career and for a hobby. And for that reason, I'm going to be continuing to grow this YouTube channel, which I want to be a valuable resource both to established preppers and to be a funnel to get more people preparing, because I believe that the more who are prepared, the less that we have to worry about. And I want this to be a venue through which I can help people and focus my efforts in my personal life and my YouTube life. Anyways, I hope that this has been interesting, and I hope that I can keep it continuing to be interesting and valuable. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you'll stick around with Let's Talk About Prepping for future videos. Stay safe out there, everyone.